Thank you to everybody for joining us for our monthly crime prevention meeting. We have these meetings every month to provide a different topic to folks in the public about safety. And this month's topic is actually going to be about property crime. And we're fortunate enough to have Sergeant Oliver here from the Property Crimes Unit to kind of talk a little bit about property crime throughout the city, some of the kinds of trends that we're seeing citywide, and then things that we can all do to help prevent ourselves from being a victim of property crime. Some crime is difficult to figure out how to prevent, but property crime is one of those things where you can really do some target hardening, and you can help make it less likely that you'll be a victim of property crime. You may not be able to eliminate it 100%, but you can definitely reduce your risk. And so we're going to talk more about that today. But before I have Sergeant Oliver kind of take it over to him, I wanted to give you kind of an idea of what we're experiencing citywide, and just pulled up some crime stats so that you kind of know as of 2022 what Richmond is kind of seeing in terms of property crime. So in January of 2022, we had a total of 45 burglaries. In February of 2022, we had 44. In January of 2022, we had 7 commercial burglaries. And in February of 2022, we had 15. So commercial burglaries as you can see, increased. In January 2022, we had 10 residential burglaries. And in February, it declined a bit. We had 7. And then burglaries from a vehicle. In January of this year, we had 28. In February of this year, we had 22. So it's averaging about the same overall. In the category of larceny and all theft, we have quite a bit of that for all theft. In January, we had 112 incidents of larceny and other theft. And in February, we had 131 incidents citywide. In terms of vehicle theft, in January of 2022, we had 86 vehicles that were reported stolen. And then in February of 2022, we had 109. So there was a 27% increase month to month from January to February. And then, although this is not necessarily, it is a property crime. In January of 2022, we had 0 arsons. In February, we had 8. So obviously that's a big difference in that particular category. So I just wanted to kind of give that to you as kind of an overview of what we're seeing. The reason we want to share this with you is that, we want you to be empowered to kind of know what's going on and what's happening in the neighborhoods. When you hear about cars being stolen or broken into, when you hear about homes being broken into, what we can do to help secure our property and make it less likely to be victimized. So I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Oliver now to talk a little bit about property crimes throughout the city, things that he's seen, things that his unit has seen, and what you can do. And then we'll have an opportunity for question and answer. So I'll turn it over to you, Sergeant Oliver.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay. So some of the trends that we have noticed over the last few months have been the catalytic converter thefts, to be more specific. So vehicle theft, catalytic converter theft, and license plates. A lot of people don't think about the license plate thefts, but we actually have a lot of those. And the things, and I know we've all been around for a little while, so we know, the lighting, the cameras and the video are good tools to help assist in investigating these crimes. A lot of times the video can be useful, but a lot of times the quality of the video is the issue that we have been running into. And also the fact that a lot of people are wearing masks because of COVID. So it's not out of the norm to see someone with a face mask or some sort of face covering. Once upon a time, it was out of the norm to see someone with face covering, and it automatically drew suspicion. And now it's not as suspicious to see someone. Honestly, it's normal to see someone with face covering. You kind of hope they cover their face. So that doesn't aid us in identifying individuals when it comes to video. We get a lot of video, and then people wonder why we can't really solve the crime or find the person because they have video. So once again, I would say that lighting, very important. Video and video cameras are useful tools. And most importantly is reporting. I think we still, and since it's not reported, it's hard to prove or quantify, but I think underreporting is also an issue because we can't really establish trends if we don't have all the data and all the information. So when you're the victim of one of these crimes, even if you don't have any suspect information or any investigative leads that we can follow up on, still please report the incident so we can track it and try to establish some sort of trend or MO, so to speak, of the suspects. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling here. Do we have any specific questions that I could address?
Yes, go ahead.
So my family has definitely been a victim of the catalytic converter. The last month, we've had 4 stolen from right in front of our house. We live on Carlson Boulevard in Richmond, and I didn't know that cars had 2. And so we had, off of our vehicles, we had both of them stolen at separate times. And so it's been very frustrating. We have the videos, we have the lights, and they're very slick, that these people, and I feel like we've almost been targeted. We live right next door to a church, and we have a guy who is also mentally ill. So, we have been reporting and doing all these things, and it's just frustrating, and it's just, I don't know what to do. We now had to put, special covers over the new ones that we've had installed. And I feel like we've got a very nice community here. We have good communication between our neighbors, but I feel like this is just a frustrating situation, that we feel now we're putting up a fence in front of our yard, around our yard, just because we don't feel safe. It's just, I feel like, when we had to have our vehicle towed, the tow truck driver said, it's happening on all the blocks surrounding our homes, so it's a frustrating situation, and I feel like the crime is really boosted. I feel too like I'm rambling, but it's just suggestions. I don't know if there's able to be more patrols around here, because there are people sleeping in the parking lot of our church next door. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, so one of my suggestions was going to be the catalytic converter shields, or that's a great tool because it makes it is time consuming, and they for the most part they're out in less than a minute. But with the shield, it takes a little more effort, a little more time, and this is more of a crime of convenience. So with the shield, I'm not sure if you have this, but they give you a little sticker you can put in your window to kind of like ADT or one of the security system installers do with yard signs. It's kind of along the same vein. They give you a sticker you can put in your windows to let people know that you do have a car covered, to just prevent them from even trying. And another thing that people have been doing lately, and we've been suggesting, is that when you get your catalytic converter installed, you have the license plate etched into the catalytic converter. So because we've stopped cars with what we believe to be stolen catalytic converters, but without a victim, you don't have a crime. So we have a car full of catalytic converters and no way to trace them back to the owners. And so that's been a problem. Like, it's clearly stolen property, but without an owner, it's hard to, well, it's impossible to move forward with prosecution. And one of the trends, so let's see, last month we had 34 catalytic converters stolen, and a month prior we had 38. And those are the ones that were reported. And once again, I'd say that a lot of times people don't report, so it's hard for us to really gauge or to see the pattern of these events. But some of the arrests that we have made have been people from all over the Bay Area, and it's not just a Richmond issue. It's definitely a broader issue, because people come from all over the Bay to engage in this activity.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if I could just add, a little bit of information about, you talking about the unhoused and folks who are living at, at the church parking lot and stuff that you guys are seeing. So, if again, obviously not every unhoused person is necessarily committing theft, but it can be. And if you do see that, just so you know, we'll probably have another crime prevention meeting just specifically about the unhoused. We had one probably about maybe 5 or 6 months back, but I think it's such a popular issue, and I work on that too, that we probably need to bring that back. But just to let you know is that, the city's kind of policy is for, people in RVs and things like that. We do try to send out core first to offer people services. And then after that, if they decline the services, we will move forward with kind of like next steps. So if it's on private property, it's a little bit different, but maybe we can connect with that property to kind of find out what is going on. I mean, we do want to recognize that there's not enough shelter space, and that's a whole huge issue. But I think it is important to work with the neighbors to make sure that, if they are doing this program, they have to do it by permit. I'm part of that permitting process. So they need to have a permit if they're having people stay on their property.
This, I think, is more mental illness we're dealing with.
Yeah. And if it's somebody with mental illness, the other thing that we can do is we do have the mental health and evaluation team with the police department, where an officer and a clinician go out and they make contact with someone. So that's always that's another way that we could, probably connect on that front too. So feel free to email me about that.
That'd be great.
Sutter and Carlson.
I see that a couple of more people have joined. I'm just going to ask if you're not speaking to mute yourself. I might mute yourself for you just so that we don't hear the background noise. Thanks. Are there other questions? And Sergeant Oliver, feel free to jump in too with other, I know people asked a lot about preventing, for example, vehicle break-ins, because we do see quite a few of those. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, so and it's along the same vein as catalytic converter thefts. Park your vehicle in a conspicuous place, a well-lit place. Of course, in not if you can help it, in a well-lit place where you can actually see around your vehicle before you approach it, or from your home, like you were saying. Unfortunately, a fence is not a bad idea, because it's just a physical and a mental barrier for someone that's trying to steal from your vehicle or break into your vehicle. But just the basic things that I think a lot of people already do and know is just the well-lit areas, not traffic areas if possible, and of course vehicle alarms and so forth.
Thank you. Are there other questions that people have about specific types of property crimes you all want to know about? We can kind of go down the list. I know people a lot of times talk about home burglary. But I want to make sure that I get to questions that people might have.
Michelle, I want to add something else if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So another problem that we are running into, especially when it pertains to property crimes, vehicle theft specifically, we have numerous people. We have numerous people that are cited because of the COVID restrictions in the jail. A lot of property crimes are citable, and the jail will not accept the suspect or the person committing a crime. So there's no instant punishment or recourse, and so we do have a lot of the same repeat offenders as of late during this COVID period. So that's a problem that we're running into as well.
Thank you, Sergeant Oliver. Other questions, feel free to also drop them in the chat too. If you don't want to say it on air, you don't have to.
Hi, and this is Elaine from the Country Club Vista neighborhood. One thing that I've been emailing our beat officers is about vandalism of graffiti that's been just being put onto our sound walls in our neighborhood. And I've been trying to do the online reporting, and I was just curious if there's a specific division of RPD that's actually investigating graffiti crimes.
I'm sorry. Okay. That would be code enforcement. Code enforcement and whatever whatever officers assigned to that area, they'll do extra patrol in the area for if it's a repeat issue.
Yeah, so we've been getting that. So thankfully, because I've been in contact with our beat officers and as well as Lieutenant Bashan. So we actually did have a beat officer, I guess, a couple weekends ago, just sitting overnight chatting up with our neighborhood patrol officer, which was great. But just whatever this person is, because it's, there's the same tags every week that it pops up, we get it painted over, and they just come back. So I'm documenting how many times they've done it, and they have the same tag each time. So if they get caught, that's a lot of incidences that we have reference to.
Okay, and it would be nice for you to so when you email the beat specifically, the sergeant also gets that email, and at some point it would be nice for to recommend maybe a beat project. I'm sure the sergeant would do that. If I was the sergeant, that's what I would do. I would assign a specific officer a beat project to combat that issue.
Yeah, I think Sergeant Joseph's the one who's helping with that. But I guess I know that they're all just strapped with like limited resources, and so I understand that. I was just curious if there was actually a specific division that looks into repeat offenders of people who are just tagging up walls to see what the pattern is or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely have been impacted by that. Just so you know, for those of you who were able to see Chief Chirona's presentation on staffing. So, we were able to provide additional staffing for patrol so that we could handle basic calls for service, but that has definitely tremendously impacted our investigations division. So things like graffiti, we'll still investigate it, but we definitely don't have the amount of resources, which we're already limited, that we used to have for that. So I do think that Sergeant Oliver's suggestion that we kind of maybe work with the beat officer, since this is a repeat issue, would be a good one. I think, I may be wrong, I think Lieutenant Bashan might be on the line from Northern District. I don't know if you wanted to say anything. Don't want to put you on the spot, but if you do want to say something to that, you can.
Oh, sure. Good afternoon, everybody. I just took over Northern District, so I'm kind of familiarizing myself with things going on. And I've spoken several times about the graffiti issue, and I know that Sergeant Joseph has assigned, I believe it's Officer Lemus and Officer President as the two officers to deal with the issue, because generally it's occurring during their shifts in that beat. So we are doing what we can. It is kind of unfortunate, though. It's kind of a hit or miss thing. If the suspect walks by and sees two cops sitting there, they're going to keep walking that night. And the one night they don't see the officer sitting there, they're going to maybe have their way with it. But we'll continue to do what we can.
Thank you again.
Thank you. And then I did drop the, and you probably already know that, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I did drop the contact information for graffiti removal in there. If you do see it and you need to get it removed. Sometimes it's just a battle of like, when they put it up, just getting it off until they get tired of doing it. But I do think that, having officers assigned in that area, also cameras do help with certain things like that. So, I mean, obviously, that's something that, if it's on certain property, we'd have to consider. So, but I do think that that's definitely a helpful tool. Were there other questions about some of the other property crimes? I don't know, Sergeant Oliver, if you wanted to talk a little bit about home security, because that's an issue that comes up quite a bit. And as you can see, that we did have quite a few residential burglaries in the area.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I mean, we kind of take the approach which you're familiar with, Michelle, the septet approach, and it's kind of crime prevention through environmental design, and that's trimming the bushes around your windows, lighting, on the side of your house and, around your house actually at night, an alarm, cameras, of course. Were you getting ready? Did you want to say something, Michelle? Oh, sorry about it. Okay. But keeping the line of sight around your windows clear, the bushes trimmed and trees trimmed to where people can't hide or conceal themselves around the entryways of your home. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Michelle? I know you're pretty good at the septet stuff.
Yeah, so I think you hit a lot of it. I think, obviously having an alarm is important. I think alarms, if you can do an alarm is helpful. Setting your alarm every single time you use it, you leave the house. I know, one of the great ways for people to get in are bathroom windows, because people leave them open. Low-lying windows. Sometimes you get door kicks, and one of the things that we encourage people to do is to get a solid core door and make sure that it's reinforced so that it's more difficult to do that. Usually those happen in areas where there's a lot of bushes and shrubbery that's hiding the house, or maybe your front porch is a little bit off from plain view. So we do encourage people to do that. The other thing to just be aware of is things like having a dog. People ask that all the time. Having a dog definitely helps. Having video monitoring. So, things like Ring, those kinds of things, those are very much, something that can be helpful, is having like a video monitoring service, so that you can kind of see what's happening, because you can use those video monitoring services when you're away from home. So you can kind of see who's coming up on the front porch. And so we get a lot of video from people with, video monitoring systems, showing us like package theft and other things like that happen. So I definitely would encourage that. I also say, like, if you do have an alarm system, a lot of times people are worried about home invasion. Most of the time, people who break into houses are doing it during the day. And think about why they're doing that. They're doing that because nobody's home, unless, there's probably more people. What we saw during the pandemic showed us that we were correct. Is during the pandemic, we did see a decrease sometimes in some of the home burglary. Why? Because everybody was home, right? And so that shows you that, most of the folks who are committing burglaries are not trying to commit it with you there in the house. They want to make sure that you're gone. So I do think that it is important to know that. And for those people who are concerned about, night safety, say you're living alone or something like that, you might want to, if you have an alarm system, set it so that if there is some kind of a breach while you sleep, you can have it on instant. So, you are alerted. So there's a lot of different tools that we can use nowadays. But, locking your doors, making sure you really secure your home, making sure you secure windows and other things that are vulnerable are really important. And there's a home security checklist, I believe, on our website that you can take a look at and take a look at some of those things, as well. thank you to anybody who just entered. I would just ask if you entered and you don't have your name, because we're trying to make sure that we have good security in our crime prevention meeting, that you please rename yourself or I will rename you. So I will instant message that person. I don't know if Sergeant Oliver, you wanted to talk about package theft, because that's another issue that comes up quite a bit.
So, and to speak a little further about dogs, owning a dog, and it doesn't have to be a big dog. Like I've actually spoken to burglars, and they stated that they avoid homes with any dog because the dog takes away the surprise and their, you know, they can't hide. A dog can hear you and they'll alert the owner or anyone around to the activity of, you know, of your approach. So package theft. So package theft is an issue that we were dealing with a lot before the pandemic. It's still an issue. As far as from an investigative standpoint, it's a tough one for us because for whatever reason, it's a misdemeanor regardless of the value of the package. But ways to prevent it, they actually sell like excuse me, I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. They sell these little containers that you can have installed on your porch. That's one great tool, but you can also have, if it's an Amazon package or delivery, you can have it scheduled to be delivered, or you can have it delivered to Amazon lockbox at CVS or one of these other locations that I'm sure you are aware of. But as far as the investigative part, it's really a tough one for us. So the best way to deal with it is through prevention.
Thank you. And I see that Cordell has his hand up. Cordell, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. So, and I know the reason I brought this up is because in the past, I've noticed that that every time when somebody is expecting a package, the first thing that that people that undesirables do is, like, you know, they wait for the UPS or Amazon driver to come through there and it's just like take them, and it's like, because that has happened quite a bit. And so my question is that and you just already answered that question. So the other part of the question was, is there a particular way that people can a neighbor, okay, let me rephrase that. Is it possible to let your neighbor know that you're expecting a package? That's it.
So your question is, should you alert your neighbor that you're expecting a package?
Correct.
Yeah, your neighbor, your neighbor, your family members, or schedule packages to be delivered when you're home. I think if you don't have a Ring doorbell or some sort of doorbell camera, it's a wise investment. They're not that expensive, and it's a tremendous tool for prevention. It's a deterrent as well. Like when people see that you have that, you know, they're not as quick to walk on your property or do anything suspicious around your door. But for the most part, like, a lot of people use Amazon, and so if you have Amazon packages coming, it would be wise to have them delivered at an Amazon lockbox in your closest CVS or where the closest place to you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for that, Cordell. And I see that Jessie has her hand up. Go ahead, Jessie.
Thank you, Michelle. So I was wondering how much of a deterrent those doorbells actually are. I see every day on Nextdoor and on the Ring app itself, I see videos of thieves walking right up to those cameras, usually they don't even bother to try to obscure their faces. And I personally think it's because they know there's no consequences because of the, what you mentioned, that this is just a misdemeanor. So is there actually any evidence that it is a deterrent? Like, are there hard numbers anywhere? And is it actually going to help somebody be captured? Because, it's such a low priority, as you stated, not your fault, but, that's my question.
Well, the first part is, me personally, I have a doorbell camera and I think it's useful. If for nothing else, I can, so you don't have to go to the door as many times, if nothing else. But I do think it's useful. And I can speak to an incident on Harbor. We had an issue with package thefts, and just from the doorbell cameras, our officers usually work the same beat, or at least in the same district. So a lot of the people, after you've been here a couple of years, you kind of know everyone that you've either arrested them or contacted them. But people that do nefarious things in your area, you kind of get to know them. And just from the doorbell camera, I could see the two people in particular that I personally knew, and we contacted them and cited them for those crimes just based on the doorbell cameras. So to your answer, yes, I do think they're a useful tool. However, the consequences are lower than you would expect.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have doorbell cameras now, and I definitely see the same thing you see, Jessie, with a lot of videos where people just kind of are very blatant about it. And I would just encourage everyone. I myself am a resident. I order a lot of packages. I definitely track my packages. Sometimes if it's a important package, maybe you want to send it to another location, whether it's a lockbox, a drop box, because, people just go around, they kind of follow the Amazon truck or follow the UPS and, delivery truck. So I do think it's important for, if you're going to be expecting a package, to figure out the best way for you to get it. Unfortunately, I mean, that really sucks. I mean, because, we should be able to leave our packages on our porch, but it's really a easy crime of opportunity for people to get it. I've seen a couple creative ways where people have kind of created, drop boxes of where you can put the packages, in there, so that the mail people kind of know, because a lot of times people are just looking to see if there's something left on the porch. But yeah, I think, if you're expecting something important, you might want to have it either left with a neighbor or sent somewhere else where you can pick it up.
That reminds me of a quick follow-up question. A lot of us talk about making bait packages, and it's my understanding that as long as they don't cause grave bodily harm, like if they had something stinky in it that the person opened and got, the smell of rotten fish all over them in their car or something, that wouldn't be illegal to do. Is that correct? We could make bait packages?
I wouldn't advise it. I'll tell you that, my personal opinion, but technically no. But yeah, I wouldn't personally advise that.
Yeah, I do worry that the person that got stunk up might come back for revenge. So that would be my concern. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jessie. Are there any more questions for Sergeant Oliver about any kinds of property crimes? I think we hit a lot of them. Sergeant Oliver, one thing we didn't cover, and I want to make sure that we do talk about this, is identity theft and commercial business, protecting commercial businesses. Did you want to kind of maybe briefly go over that?
Definitely. Identity theft. And once again, I'll use myself as an example. I have Credit Karma. It's a free app, and I'm not saying go get Credit Karma, but there are a lot of free apps, and that's one of them that you can use to monitor your credit, monitor if accounts are opened, just everything. It just gives you information. It emails you real time when things are, happens as it pertains to your credit. Another tool that I personally, once again, I use and I advise family members to use, if you're not going to apply for any credit or you're not applying for credit, you can call the 3 credit bureaus and actually have your credit frozen. And I would strongly recommend that. They freeze your credit and no one, not even you, if you tried, could do an inquiry on your credit. So that is also one of the great tools to use to prevent a lot of headache, because there's a lot of other things you can do, and as it pertains to your mail and this and that. But in my opinion, those 2 things, freezing your credit, having some sort of credit monitoring system, are the best routes to go to prevent having to have a headache of arguing with a credit company about charges that you did not make. So as far as identity theft, that's what I would recommend. And as far as just one thing I wanted to cover, lately you'll get a lot of emails. Your Amazon account is frozen, your Amazon account is blocked. Usually now they're starting to use text messages. Please don't open those. If you have a question about your Amazon account, log on to your Amazon account and look at your Amazon account for yourself. Don't take anyone's word for it. And Amazon definitely wouldn't request that you go to Target and get a gift card. No one does business with gift cards. So if any email or any issues about your credit accounts, your banking accounts, deal with that agency directly or that company directly. No one will call you and not let you get off the phone or haggle with you over the amount of money owed towards a bill or towards an account. Get a second opinion before you do. If you have any questions or concerns, if you think that is something fishy, chances are it is. So just that's something I wanted to just bring up. And what else did you say, Michelle? I'm sorry.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's a huge issue with scams and all kinds of scams that are going on. So thank you for bringing that up. The other thing is just for those who own businesses, I know that we've been seeing some commercial property theft and other things. Any recommendations you have for any business owners on the line today?
I would, of course, real-time security is always a helpful hand, like real-time security monitoring. Or definitely, without a question, lighting, like we spoke about earlier. It also pertains to businesses with the lighting and the clear sight lines around the windows. One of the biggest issues with commercial businesses that we've seen is that they do not have like real-time security monitoring. So by the time we're alerted that there's an issue, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the suspects are already gone from the scene. So security cameras, security monitoring if possible, if not, at least cameras that activate or alert you when they've been triggered or your alarm has been activated is a huge help.
Thank you. And I see Miss Dandy has her hand up. Go ahead, Miss Dandy.
Hello. I was listening to what Sergeant Oliver was saying, and everything he's saying was correct because I work with credit now, and what people are doing now is actually calling. They're calling and saying that this is your bank. So if your bank does call, and they could know that it is your bank, Wells Fargo, Chase, any of those banks, if they call you and say, this is your bank, say, okay, hang up, and then call your bank back. Call your bank and say, are you guys calling me for anything? Do not answer any questions and do not stay on the phone with them. And that's the same thing, because Citibank keeps texting me, and I've never even had Citibank and it's saying that someone's messing with it or whatever. And I just, whatever the text comes on there, just delete it off. Don't even open it. If they want to, they'll send you a letter. So anything that does anything with your credit, banking, your credit cards or anything, don't open it, because as soon as you open it, whatever passwords that you have in your phone, they're able to suck it up and take all the information out of your phone if you save your passwords in the phone and use it to get into your bank accounts.
Yes, Miss Dandy, that's a really good point. You know, and anybody can be a victim of identity theft, even the crime prevention manager. I normally had a freeze on my credit, but I actually went to go take out some credit recently and I hadn't put my freeze back on. Somebody went and took out a loan in my name. And so I'm getting messages. Yeah, I was getting messages saying, hey, this loan, is due and you haven't paid it. So I think, what Sergeant Oliver is saying, monitor your stuff as much as you can. I mean, your identity is everywhere. When you go online, a lot of people get it. Some people buy and sell your social security number. So anybody can do it. And I think Sergeant Oliver is right, is that the way that you prevent people taking out a line of credit in your name is you really need to freeze your credit. It's a pain because then when you want to go and apply for something, you have to remember to, unfreeze it, or they have to block it, so that you can do that. But if you're not planning on doing that anytime soon, stop it at the source. And then also just monitoring your bank statements and your credit card statements. A lot of them have, information so you can get an alert when there's a charge that comes to you. So that you're aware. I mean, I look at my bank every single day. And I think, most of us are not, we're not millionaires, billionaires. So, we count every penny that we have. So it's very important to take a look at that frequently.
There's one more thing on your bank card. I know Chase has it and Bank of America. Every time you use your card will be a hassle. Every time you use your card, you need to turn your card off once you finish using it, because some people use their card and leave it somewhere. And if you lock it, no one else can use it. Because if you have a Visa or MasterCard on there and you use it frequently, someone can go to the gas station and use your card and you won't know until then. So after you finish using your card, you should always lock it. And if you have that mobile app on your phone, you can just go into your phone and turn it on and off as often as you want. That way, if you lose your card or you lose it in a house somewhere and you turn it off, no one can use it until you open it back up, unlock it.
Thank you for that. Were there any more questions? If not, I wanted to thank Sergeant Oliver for an overview of property crimes. I know that this is an issue. Please, we will send out the recording of this meeting so you can share it with your neighbors, your friends. We just encourage everybody to tell somebody some of the tips that you've learned today. We do see that when we do these kinds of topics and these forums, and we alert people that we can make an impact in property crime, because a lot of it is crime of opportunity. So when you share that information, you're really helping us at the police department to be able to help impact those kinds of things in our neighborhoods. So please share this information with other folks in your neighborhoods who live nearby. And I know we can make a difference. And I would like to turn it over to Al and Carla to see if there's anything from the Crime Prevention Executive Board that you'd like to share with folks before we close it out. Oh, I see there's one other question. Before we turn it over to Al, just one other question to Sergeant Oliver. A question about the temporary housing that's popping up around the city. This person is in central Richmond and there's a block with a lot of vans and cars that have popped up. Do you have a plan for handling this? And, I don't know if Sergeant Oliver, if you want to speak to that, I can also speak to it as well.
Michelle, I think you would be best suited to answer that question.
So, as many of you all know, I work with crime prevention, but I also have the additional duty of working with a number of city staff on issues of the unhoused. And so, yes, especially since COVID, we've seen definitely an increase in vehicles parked on the street, people living in tents. Part of that is because during the pandemic, as you all know, a lot of our shelters that were congregate closed down, and we have a shelter crisis. The county was able to move some folks into places like the Marriott and, work with Home Key to try to get people into more permanent housing. But that said, there still is a lack countywide of shelter beds for all the people who we need. I think we only have half the number of available shelter beds for the number of people who are unhoused countywide. So what we tend to do is if we do see someone who is in a tent by our city ordinance, if they're in a tent, not a vehicle, we do have to offer them a shelter bed. So we usually have a CORE, which is our homeless outreach team, go out and make contact with them to see if there is shelter available and ask if they would like one. If they are in a tent and they do not want shelter bed, then we can come in and do more, on the PD and the public works side in terms of abatements. If they do want a shelter bed, we can work with them to try to get that resource to them, because we really want to be able to serve people, but we also want to be able to maintain public safety in the public streets. It is not easy. Trust me, I live in the city, so I see the same tents that you see. I see the same vehicles parked that you all see. And what I would suggest maybe for crime prevention, Carla and Al and the rest of the board, is that maybe we could have another forum about kind of, of that issue specifically, because I think there's a lot to talk about there. And I'll turn over to Al and Carla.
I think Carla left something on chat. So good meeting, Michelle.
Yeah, Carla did leave something in chat. She said, thank you for participating. If anybody has a topic that you'd like, this is your time. A lot of the recommendations we get for topics come from you. We had one about sideshows. We had meet and greets with Captain Simmons and Acting Chief Torona. There was a suggestion for property crime. So if you have other suggestions about things that you want to see us talk about, please let us know. Please contact Carla, or you can contact myself, and we can make sure that we try to arrange for a speaker on that particular topic.
I do.
Cordell, go ahead.
Yes, I have a suggestion for a topic, because after hearing this today from Sergeant Oliver, I said one of my pet peeves is I'm still dealing with is some of these hotspot businesses. Michelle knows which one I'm talking about. A certain one on 25th Street. So because I feel that is okay. Besides that, because I had an idea for a future topic, and I told Richmond Village about this, about a block captain training, because that would be appropriate.
Another block captain training. We could definitely do that.
We can get some youth involved.
Yeah, we did a block captain training late last year, but it would be good to do. It's nice to do them twice a year or a couple times a year. So we definitely could do that, Cordell. And if anybody, the other question is community training academy going to come back? As far as I know, the answer to that is yes. I know that Acting Chief Torona wants to bring it back, and Captain Simmons would like to bring it back. I think they were trying to wait to see what the COVID restrictions look like and how they would do it, but it should be coming back. And, once we know kind of how it's finalized, we'll let all of you guys know. So hopefully you can participate. It's a really great experience, and you can come out to that. So yes, definitely.
Michelle?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Wednesday. If possible, maybe in the future, could we have a topic on safe routes as it relates to the bike lanes and the safe routes to school, so somebody could talk about that? Because some people violate that bike lane. Instead of them being in the bike lane, they're actually driving as if riding as if they are a motorist. So that's just a thought.
Absolutely. We can put that on the list. I think that's a really good one about safe routes to school, and, and bike safety and pedestrian safety. That's a good one. Okay, well, if anybody has any others, feel free to, I think our emails are in the chat, or, or drop them in the chat, or contact us if you think of something after the meeting. We would love to incorporate your idea. And with that, I don't think I have any more, just to say thank you all for coming out and spending some time with us. I really appreciate all of you all. I love all of you all, seeing your faces. We all are hanging in there through, what's a really hard time. And I appreciate everything you do in your neighborhood to help make your neighborhood safe. I just want to say thank you from the police department. Thank you from the Crime Prevention Board. I know we all appreciate everything that you guys do as a crime prevention board. And I know crime prevention appreciates what all the block captains are doing. And thank you for being part of this training. We really appreciate it. So I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon, and thank you, Sergeant Oliver. And thank you for Lieutenant Bashan dropping in. Appreciate you guys both for coming.
Thank you.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.